got a variety of topics this week. I think, though, we need to start with one of the more heavy ones of the week that split the internet right down the middle, and that was Hellblade and its permadeath mechanic, which some people think was a terrible thing to put in a game, and the other people that are right thought it was good.
Well, it wasn't even because it was permadeath. It was because, the rumor said, or well, literally everyone took it as gospel because it came out so solidly and, authentically seeming. What it really was that it deleted your saves once you got to a certain point, once you had died a certain amount of times. And in my opinion, and the reason I wanted to discuss it, although I know a lot of other people wanted to discuss it, but in my opinion, wiping a person's save because they've died a lot is a lot better than switching someone over to easy mode, because they take the knowledge that they've learned when they start the game again and then start their journey smarter and more prepared. The negative, I suppose, is that
if they start their game again.
Well, yes, there is that, actually. That's a good point. But it's more that if the story stuff isn't skippable, then you're bloody doomed. You have to watch another, modern gaming. You have to watch another half an hour starting sequence because you've died a few too many times. But I honestly thought, right, okay, so this is actually a sympathy thing, really, because it's saying you're obviously struggling. We're not going to shove you on easy mode so you can cakewalk through, or shove you on story mode, although obviously story modes in some games are very good things. We're going to take you back to the beginning. You've learned a lot. We're going to prove that to you by, starting you back at the beginning with skippable stories, which it turned out it didn't have in it. Not that that was relevant in the end anyway. And, just go. You're back at level 1. It's Streets of Rage. You're at level 1 again. You ran out of credits or you ran out of whatever. You're going. You're better. You're going to get a level further. But yeah, someone else take the mantle now.
Well, no, what you brought up there, Dan, was exactly my point, and why people that were moaning about this it's just wrong, because, like you said, like Streets of Rage, you run out of credits, you start the game again. It's how games were.
All right, I'll play devil's advocate.
If anything, this is a traditional game mechanic. You have lives, and when you run out, you start again. How all games.
Are you saying it's a generation thing? Are you saying the internet backlash was from a certain generation?
Yes, basically, I think how I put it on Twitter were millennial babies. But
which aren't you actually part of millennial?
I don't see myself as a millennial.
But the actual
the
quote you found was that you was in that group, wasn't you?
But that definition's wrong. But I think someone else found another quote on a different site somewhere else that actually it was different. It was about the early 90s that millennials started, and there was another Y generation or something. But I don't know. Anyway, it's young, the younger generation who have basically had everything handed to them on a plate, gaming wise and general life wise as well.
Are you saying that a little bit of entitlement was forthcoming?
Yes, entitled babies, they're the words I use.
I think that's far too full on, to be brutally honest with you. And I don't believe in this generational stuff. That I do think I made it clear that I think that generational labels are really a waste of time, and we're just taking stereotypes based off the traits that people have inherited from their parents, or from inverting what their parents believe. So yeah. So yeah, and as somebody who is continuously, because of my date of birth, labelled as a millennial, I generally, dismiss such labelling.
It's got dark pretty quickly, didn't it?
But then some games, but then modern games do have more of a story in them, and so they obviously want you to continue. Things like save points are not a bad idea. They allow for a longer game, which obviously this turned out that it was a longer game. This was about 10 hours long, wasn't it? At which point I say, you know what? If you spend 10 hours playing a roguelike, you're probably playing it extremely slowly. The kind of games that are nowadays throwaway are a lot shorter than 10 hours, as it were.
I think the question has to be asked: is the mechanic suited for the game in question? So, for instance, if you had that mechanic on a 60+ hour game, would you be happy, or would you prefer that mechanic in a 10-hour plus game? that could be the reason where certain members of the internet were unhappy, because they felt it was, they've wasted potentially 10 hours, where maybe a different generation would think, actually 10 hours, well, that's normally what I spent on just one level back in my day. So I think that was where I think people were starting to come from, and then it kind of devolved into name calling, didn't it?
All right, I'm coming in with a controversial standpoint on this. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. First off and foremost, Iron Man mode, which is basically what this kind of is. It's like Iron Man mode from XCOM. This concept has existed for a while. You lose your save, start over. The question for me is, and this is the standpoint that I want to ask, is it okay for it to be forced on you? I mean, having the option there would have been nice. I think options are what I think is more important. I think that's what they should have gone with, because you know what? I'm an adult, and I'm going to look at this from an adult aspect. I have a job, I have a family, we all have things to do, and having to start over. I'm sorry, I know this is going to piss off Terry, but games of old days kind of sucked. Okay, I'm sorry. The idea of having to start something over is completely just boggling. I would be so pissed off.
I'm glad, actually, that you're still talking. I'm surprised he hasn't muted you just for that one moment.
Yeah, that is definitely a mutable offence. So
but I can see his point. I think from both sides.
No, I mean, I do get the fact that yeah, maybe obviously a lot of games back then, they did that because they were arcade translations, and they were built to gobble your money and things like that. But
right. Exactly.
My problem is that it's not a new mechanic, and the thing is, people go on about, well, the length of the game matters. How about Minecraft? I mean, Minecraft's got it's not forced on you, but it has got a hardcore mode, and you could be playing that game for absolutely weeks non-stop, and then have your save deleted.
But that's a hardcore mode.
Yeah, exactly. That's an option you chose.
Yeah. But I suppose in any case, it's all moot, because it turned out that this mechanic was not in the game at all anyway.
Well, it was classed as Jim Sterling quietly put it. It was mentioned, but it has no teeth to it.
Yeah.
So it's there to kind of, in a way, if you look at it as a psychological thing. And maybe that's what the developers were trying to put.
Yeah, I mean, I think this what it was is because the mechanic was so tied in with the story of the game that it was basically a body rot that was going to basically kill the protagonist's brain over time if you died more and more. Then that's fair enough. I think they were just trying to force the issue,
because that does ramp up your fear of making sure you do something. You take your time with the game. You don't just plow through it.
Yeah, definitely. It puts you in a certain mindset when you're going into the game.
Exactly, and I think maybe that's how they wanted it to be seen. They wanted it to be seen as like, I've got to be careful with this, and that they're using that almost fear already. When you have the story behind it, it would ramp it up so much more.
I'm for some reason I can't get out of my head. There was a story. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was ever real. I think it was more of an urban legend of a game that was developed in Russia, that you bought it, and if you died within the game, not only did your save game die, it uninstalled itself and wiped the disc it was on, so you physically couldn't play it anymore.
I have heard that before,
but I've never found any proof that it was an actual real thing.
Well, probably not, because it's deleted itself.
Well, it might not exist now. That's by the by. But whether it did exist at one point, there's no real evidence that it did actually exist.
Somebody made a game on Steam that was something about sheep or shepherds, I think. I think it was actually a dark kind of first-person survival-ish game. I can't quite remember what it was. But they said only 200,000 people or something like that, 200,000 owners could play the game. And once you died, that was it. You couldn't start a second character. And that was maybe 2 years ago now. It's probably more, actually, but, time. But yeah, there was definitely something like that recently. Whether that was inspired by those old urban legends of video games of old.
Possibly, because obviously we've heard that Polybius is in development, so...
Well, it is. It was in a video, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, Llama Guy is doing it.
To cut back to what Trent was saying, the game was called Kill Switch.
That's the one. That's the one. Yes, I can remember it.
It was a supposedly 1989 game which the player choose either Ghast or Porto. It was nearly impossible to play as Ghast as he was invisible, which pretty much apparently everyone used to choose Porto. And this is what would happen if you basically, once you completed the game, it basically completely wiped itself clean and could not be copied. Apparently, only 5,000 copies were created, and it fell into obscurity.
Yep.
That name Kill Switch is too perfect for that to be real. I'm sorry.
Does. I think it is just possibly a creepypasta kind of story that's just been made up, because it is a bit fantastical. Because the one I remembered read. That it ended with a guy basically managed to find one of these, bought it for like 50 grand and said he was going to stream it. But all that happened was there was like a 5-minute stream of him just weeping, apparently. So, that just ends it on a sort of a perfect note for the kind of story that it was.
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of like, hey guys, I did a test run before and now, yeah.
But interesting anyway.
Game survived today.
Would it survive
would people buy it?
Yes, people would, just because of the concept of it, I think. And the fact that I think technology's got to the point now where I don't think, if it was made in a certain way that it deleted itself and it did all this weird stuff, I don't think that would happen now. Someone would get hold of it, find out how it's doing it, stop it, and then go, here you go, here's a game you can play as many times as you want. I don't think it would survive in its actual form, that it would delete itself. Someone would be able to stop that.
I think it would depend on the price, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
if you don't want to spend 300 quid and then die, and then it's gone.
I mean, if some indie developer decided to, create it just for a laugh to go along with the creepypasta and just put it on Steam for like £1.50 or something, I think they'd probably get quite a few sales
and a lot of refunds.
Oh yeah,
not necessarily. Yeah. If it's actually put in the actual, if it's been mentioned in the title, this will delete if you do that. You have therefore given context to it, so it's not as if it's, it's like part and parcel of the game. It's like saying, here's a TV and here's the remote. It's part and parcel of it.
You mean shoving it in the EULA? I don't think any EULAs actually pop these days. Only the very odd, rare ones where it kind of goes online or it's using a third-party thing. I think it just automatically waves like, nobody's going to be an idiot with this. Everybody understands it's just a license, not ownership of part of the game's very existence.
Yeah. Plus, it would be interesting to see how they could make it work. Like, could they make it so it was built, say, into the Steam API. So you bought the game, you played it, it deleted itself, actually removed itself from your Steam library, and then possibly even enabled you to buy it again for people that did want to do multiple playthroughs. If it was that cheap, I think it would work. That's
just a guaranteed cash moneymaker, isn't it? We've just hit upon the best cash moneymaker game possible.
Which developers do we know? we need to get on this.
I mean, that is...
I think we need to bury this and hide this because a publisher's going to get this idea and we're all going to hate ourselves in a couple of years, all right?
I think we're literally talking about the invention of the disposable camera of video games.
Oh, indeed. Dear God.
We can call it Kill Switch 2.
I mean, I'm sure someone's done this before with like a subscription service that purchase through microtransactions, like a key to a game, and that's over. Even something like
that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying about online gaming, isn't it? Is if it's online and they no longer make the game for anymore, or they get rid of the game and you accidentally delete the game, you'll never get it back again.
Yeah,
no,
or
actually,
it has...
What Toby said there reminded me of something. I'm sure there was a game, some kind of online shooter, that basically whenever you purchased it, all you did was purchase a life.
Yeah, there was a first-person shooter. It was Eastern European. It was brightly coloured, actually. I remember it being almost cel-shaded. I'm going to go look that up because I remember talking about that a couple of years ago. 1 second.
Yeah, so while he's looking that up, I mean, I remember reading about that, and that's kind of an interesting thing because it almost, at that point, doesn't become a game. It's more like it's more like a gambling thing at that point.
Yeah.
It's all, you're paying to play, and if you lose, that's it. The game over. Like what we're talking about with Hellblade, but it's kind of interesting. If it's almost like an online arcade game. If you want to play, you pay, and then once you die, you're out of the game. And I don't know. It's kind of an interesting mechanic. And again, that's something that could potentially be a massive cash cow. Imagine PlayerUnknown's if they did that. They'd be rolling in it.
Even if it was like 10 pence for 10 lives or something, they would probably be making more than they're making on the loot crates. Although that said, the cut on some of the loot crates and some of the price that loot crates are going for, Valve and Blue, whatever they're called, Bluehole, that's it, are probably minted off the workshop sales before we even talk about the obscene amount of sales that they've made. I found the game. It was not cel shaded. It was meant to be hyper realistic. It looks pretty good. It's called One Life, quite literally.
Oh yes, I remember hearing about that.
Makes sense, I suppose.
And yeah, it was One Life is the first multiplayer survival game with permadeath. That's right. You heard it there. You heard it here first. Permadeath. I can't wait until we get permadeath. At which point do we get karma chameleon? If you die, you will leave the game forever. Will you manage to survive in this harsh world full of dangers? Upgrade your battle truck and set off for hotspots with friends. Play with your own rules, but remember, your every move can be the last one.
Sounds like a bad version of life.
The game or the abstract concept?